Meeting to order. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 19th. Second that, please. There's been a motion made to accept the minutes of December 19th, 2012. And is there any discussion? Seeing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor? Aye.
So Stephen Bain could not make it tonight. He's sick, so he's going to call me when he's better. And I did tell him what we had talked about when Brian was here at the last meeting, but he still really wants to address the board himself. So I told him whenever he's ready to just let me know and he can. We have a request from Greg Wilson. He's going to be doing some changes to a property on 72 Westminster Road. It's currently served by the Putney wastewater system and an allocation of 250 gallons per day. He wants an additional 250 because he's going to have 2 units there instead of 1.
What's that, his mom's house?
Yeah. It's a single family dwelling. It's going to be changed to a 2-family dwelling, so he needs an additional. So I have a letter to send him once you guys, if you approve an additional 250 gallons per day as sewer commissioners.
So moved. I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded to approve wastewater allocation. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, take a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
The other thing that I had, the other thing that I had was we are about to send in, we're gathering information right now for the sidewalk, the transportation alternative grant for the sidewalk connection from here, potentially, hopefully someday up to Landmark. The amount of money that we're applying for will get us just about past Basketville, maybe a little bit past Anita's property. So I need to send a letter of support from the town of Putney, basically saying that we support the project and that we understand that if we receive the grant that there would be a 20% local match and that the future maintenance of the sidewalk would be the responsibility of the municipality. So I just wanted some approval, official approval to go ahead and the last time I sent one in, I just kind of signed it.
You're on camera.
I know. We didn't get the grant.
Oh, so you make it.
I thought it should be a little more formal.
I'll make a motion that we authorize town manager to write a letter of support for the transportation alternatives grant.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve, to allow the town manager, Cynthia Stoddard, to apply for the Transportation Alternatives Grant, as well as a letter of support from the town. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Did I give you guys a copy of the fire department? I did. So we're going to go over the fire department budget proposal for fiscal year 13. There's a copy of the budget that's proposed in here, and along with that I attached the notes that Tom had given me when we went over his budget and his explanation for some decreases and increases. And I just want to point out a couple things. That the salary is just the basic. Right now, we, like with all the other departments, we put in a cost of living of 2%. Tom did ask for an increase of $1,500 to the assistant chief. We also added a line called special detail, and I want to explain that a little bit because we've never had that in the budget before. But basically what that is if someone hires, and Tom, you can jump in if I'm, as an example, the fire department was hired, or the rescue was hired to work the motocross event. They paid us an amount to cover that, and we in turn are paying the people that were on for that day a certain amount per hour. I think it's $10 an hour or something like that. So the amount that we're billing...
Sorry, they paid us or they
pay us, we pay the people.
Okay.
So they're basically reimbursing us for... So we put a small amount in here as an expense just to show that that's happening. It's kind of a guess. Obviously, if we don't have any money coming in, we're not going to have any money going out. So it won't be an expense if we aren't hired to do any of that work.
But does the event typically cover 100%?
Absolutely.
It's actually coming about, yeah, it's plus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we also do that for a number of fire watch details throughout the course of the year. And then any other special details that happen to come up. That is all in accordance with the established ordinance, billing ordinance.
I don't know if there's anything else you want to speak to, Tom. There was maybe the dam, we should point that out. Obviously, that looks like a huge increase. I wasn't sure why the dam fell under the fire department. I didn't even realize that was...
Well, I think it's just because of the location next to the old
Historical,
fire station.
yeah.
And historically, that's just where it's always lived.
Yeah.
Right.
So when I saw that one, I was
And
like...
plus, we've always had control at the old station.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
The valve there, so.
Yeah.
And are you still pretty dependent on that hydrant? I mean, is the cleaning of the dam
Oh, absolutely.
something we
Absolutely, both still for fire protection as well as the primary supply for manufacturing at the mill.
And do they split the cost of that?
They do, yep.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what that large increase, the notes, or I think Brad, did Brad say we do that day? Yeah.
And why is it such an increase? We just haven't caught up with it recently? Is that?
Well, it was 2 years ago, well, it will be 2 years this summer, when we cleaned it the last time. And all that was strictly a dredging.
Flushing out.
Yeah, so the only thing involved was a permit from the state and then actually doing the work. And again, that gets split between the highway department and the mill. As far as the equipment and the labor. So there really is no cost. Prior to that, it was 5 years. That was the last time it was done. And at that point, there was some resurfacing of the dam done, the face of the dam. So now it needs that work again.
So this will reflect a one-time, and then it'll probably go back to 500
Right,
for
exactly.
5 years.
Yep,
And then,
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Tom, I don't know if you want to speak to the decrease in the firefighter associate, that, the one that went down 6,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Essentially due to, well, if everybody remembers right, that line item is what technically what our folks get paid per hour for calls. And simply because a few different things. Number one, our decrease in numbers of people, and for a number of different reasons, the decrease in people able to come in for calls, that line item over the last couple of years, we haven't even reached. So the trend is going to continue that way. So in order to make up some ground in some other areas, I just opted to decrease that line item by that $6,000 and then add that $6,000 in a few other places, as is noted in my comments.
Well, what is that line been running typically?
We've been 17, 18.
Yeah, last year was 17, the year
17,
before was
yeah.
20, 21. I didn't have any other things when I was going over it that I needed to. One thing we didn't change, well, then this only came up in the last couple days, but one thing we're looking at right now is the heat down at the fire station. It's been way over. I was so bad the other day, I was on the phone with the oil company telling them there was something wrong down there because it just seemed like we were using a lot of oil. So we're gonna work on seeing what we can do to reduce the cost a little bit, what we can do for some savings down there on the heat, but it's still at 5,000. I didn't adjust that number. I don't know when I was looking at the history why it didn't throw a red flag for me, so we
Probably ought to do that.
yeah,
I mean, at
I mean,
least
it's
to
been-
7,500 or
Yeah.
something, because
I mean, I think what's been happening is the other areas, the town hall heat went down a couple thousand, so overall the heating bill has been, we've stayed within budget for heat for everywhere, so that's been kind of covering it, but maybe we should reduce town hall and increase this one a little bit. And actually,
especially since, I mean, if that was our last year, 13, 12, 13, you know, last year was a warm winter, if it was that high in a warm winter.
well, now, I'm sure maybe the usage wasn't, I don't know, I'd have to look at what the cost of it was, what the per gallon cost was.
Right.
So the usage might have been the same, but, I mean, it seems like it's been pretty, Laura and I looked at it the other day when I was having a bad spell. And it looked like the usage was about the same, so.
It's just,
If I remember right, last year, there was a significant increase in cost per gallon.
Yeah,
So our gallons weren't up
that much different.
that much at all.
Right, that were pretty.
But the cost per gallon was up, and that just threw a monkey wrench into everything.
Can you start going without heat in your office? Is that something you can do?
Well, to be honest, right now, it's like 60 degrees in here.
perfect.
I don't like it.
Yeah, cold either. But we're gonna look at some, you know, just maybe do an overall assessment with somebody and see where we can. I mean, it's a big.
We've done that before, haven't we? Haven't you looked?
No, well, there was when the building was first built, there was a heat loss analysis done. And I remember there was a lot of discussion about whether to go with oil, propane, some alternative, whatever. And at that time, everything came back to oil as being the best option. And overall heat loss, the biggest concern was the overhead doors.
Right, of course.
And I mean, everybody very plainly said, it doesn't matter what you do.
It's going to be
Yeah.
heat loss. Yeah.
But with the understanding as well, certainly the most beneficial would be the radiant slab heat, because the recovery is quick and so on and so forth. So I think the big kicker, just like everybody else, is just, it comes down to the cost per gallon.
Yeah.
And that's just kicking everybody.
Yeah.
So I'll look of course, I'll be coming back with a final draft of an overall budget, so I'll look at the town, and I think that's gone down significantly, so maybe I can just make so that it's more accurate for where it's being.
That's what I think, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll put that up at
This
7,500.
should reflect the reality
Yeah,
more than it does.
I'll just throw the question out there, because I don't know the answer. Is it even realistic to think that perhaps municipalities could get together for some
bulk.
Yeah, that could result in a fairly significant cost per gallon savings, or?
Well, I mean, I think that we did that with the school this year, I mean, so that's a start, so yeah, I
Right.
would think that.
I didn't know if there was something preventing municipalities from doing something like that, or?
No, we got it was a good deal this year with, I mean, it was a drop because we did go with the supervisory union and bought bulk with them.
And we do usually get a pretty good deal, but of course more is cheaper, so
Right.
that's worth.
Yeah, we can explore it.
Somebody told me too that there was some sort of an organized buying club based in Swansea or somewhere just across, that apparently saves a tremendous amount. I can get that
Okay,
name
yeah.
for you. But if you schedule well in advance, apparently it does a lot, so I should find out about
Yeah,
that.
we'll look into that. But other than that, I didn't, and as far as the capital plan right now, we don't have anything, nothing to be replaced in the next, unless you have something.
No. But to go along with that, with the capital side specifically, I'm going to be doing some work, Chris and I are going to be doing some work to make some adjustments to that. My hope, and I guess goal, is to have some significant adjustments to that at some point.
Bringing things forward, you mean?
Yeah, not only that, but the strong potential to actually perhaps do some downsizing. One of the biggest reasons is very simply, in point blank, just like every other service, we don't have people.
Have the manpower.
Yeah, so, I mean.
So downsizing in vehicle size or in number of vehicles? Number of vehicles?
Perhaps both.
Yeah.
And again, that's a goal, whether we find, when we really start to look at it, when we make the time to really start to look at it, if we're able to, then fantastic. But if not, then we'll do something a little different, but I honestly, I know that we won't have anything set for this town meeting within the budget, within that capital budget, but certainly mid-year we'll have something.
Do you guys see anything else that I need to adjust or?
Why do we, water sewer use charge, why are we billing for that? Is that sort of just an accounting thing more
Yeah.
than anything else? I just never looked at that before.
Yes, because I need to pay, yeah.
How's your AMT class coming?
It's coming good.
You gonna get any recruits out of it?
Perhaps one or two. When I've spoken with those folks, the first thing that question that comes from them is, how much time are we talking? So, we'll see.
So do we need a motion on this?
No,
Or
I
we're
don't
trying
think so,
to approve it or
because
not?
it's going to be part of
bigger budget.
the bigger budget, it's
Yeah.
kind of picking it apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once that final comes out, I'll make the adjustment to the heat line, so that'll be in there.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Take care. We'll see you again.
Your turn. Library.
They have copies?
Yes. I did
Now
get
the
the
real
copies.
crab eating begins.
Oh, come on. Just be kind. Gentlemen, I know you don't frequent the library often, but I want to make sure you have a bookmark
Oh.
with our
right.
hours on it. And, you need to call, we deliver. If you can't make it, if there's something you really need, we'll get it to you. We got a great budget here. I mean, you take a look at this, I would be thrilled. I would think you would enjoy it. I don't know how you want to begin, but maybe just look at it and ask me if you have any questions. You could see we're only asking for 1% increase from the town, which is $1,139. And our budget has actually gone down $1,011 from last year. And the miracle behind that is the health insurance, because we've taken 3 people who are on the health insurance that the town is paying half of on. So my daughter, my wife, and Deb's husband, Leon, have come off the health insurance. So when you look at the expenses, you'll see there's $5,987 that we were able to take off there. And that's how we come up with such a great number for the town. There's a few things, basically, if you go back to the income, you'll see we have these ways that we try to collect income for the operating account. We have a little in-house book sale that goes 12 months of the year at the library. And realistically, we had hoped to collect $1,250, but realistically, it's more like $800 a year. So we had to drop some of the numbers for the things that we collect income on. The fines, our endowment interest, realistically, is more like $500, not the $1,200 that we had there before. We collect a little bit of postage donations for interlibrary loans. The trustees, once again, to their great credit, have pledged $14,000 towards the operating account. I'm glad to say that our annual appeal, which is the majority of that money, if not all of it, that we sent out in November, is right now up to $12,000. So we're going to make it again. And then we have the book sale that we do in the spring, so we're going to be able to come up with that easily, I think. Then we collect out-of-town fees, and I had to lower that a little bit from what we collected last year, because that's a more realistic number, $6,000. And then we have that incredible copy machine down there that for 10 cents a copy, people just use all the time and makes $2,500 a year in quarters and nickels and dimes and dollars. So, yeah.
Just out of interest, how does that relate to the expense of running it? Do you?
Well, we own it, and we make a little bit of money. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Maybe $1,000 profit. I mean, we own the machine now. We have, but we do have a maintenance contract. Yeah. And then there's the paper itself that we buy. But it's a great service to the town. You know, when they said that computers were going to cut down on paper, that didn't happen.
Not at all.
It generated more.
Really outsourced it.
People print from the computers a lot. That's what a lot of it is,
Yeah.
printing from the computer.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and that goes into the copy machine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they print right to the copy machine. The big increase that we're asking for is this $2,400 you'll see in expenses, and it's technology. And what that is, if you don't know, is the high-speed fiber optic SovereignNet connection that we're going to have. You see them working on it in town here. That's what that is. That's the subcontractors. And they've already brought the line into the building at the library. There is some hardware that they've put in, and it's very close. And the Department of Libraries is going to furnish us at no charge. I put this in the town report. A new router and some other new hardware. So this is stimulus money that was allocated a couple of years ago. SovereignNet had, I think, a 3-year time frame to do it.
Yeah.
So the library signed up, and we signed a 5-year contract. And again, it's subsidized by the government, but our cost is still going to be $2,400 a year. I'm told that if you tried to buy it privately, if the bank wanted the same service, it would be more like $800 a month. You know, we're getting it at $200 a month. And we're locked in at that for 5 years. So this is going to put us in a position, seriously, to have very fast internet capabilities at the library. Everything from if you wanted to do video conferencing for whatever reason, to just browsing the internet really fast, reliably. And it's going to position us for a long time to come, I think. in a really good place. The downside of it is it costs money. We've had free internet access ever since I've been there, thanks to Ernie at Southern Vermont Cable. And he's been great and hasn't cost us anything, but this isn't going to be free. It's $2,400 a year. But I think it's going to be a great service for everybody. If you have any questions about that, it should come online before the town meeting, within the next month or two, I'm hoping.
Is that what they're telling you?
That's what they're telling us, yeah.
Wow.
You know, so we'll see, but we'll see. And then we just asked for the 2% cost of living increase. And really, that's about it. Everything else is pretty much level funded. It is level funded as to what we were running with this year. And we're going great guns down there. And our roof isn't leaking.
That's a good thing.
It's the same company.
We had it right until then.
It's probably a different subcontractor.
Maybe so, huh? Yeah. But the building's holding up real good. I mean, this is 8th year now. We opened 8 years ago, first week in January. Believe it or not, 8 years. So I don't know if you have any questions. I was happy to present the budget. So, you know, low to...
And we don't need action on this either.
Nope, it'll be part, I plugged in the 114 into the budget line.
In terms of the health insurance, first of all,
Right, one thing.
I'm Chris Osgood, the chair of the board. Stephen runs a great show down there, I think for any of you would do. People love the library, love the staff. Part of the reason for the low ask for the increase in the town is that health insurance. What's the town's policy in terms of, the reason there's a decrease is because of a decrease in the number of personnel that is being covered through the policy. What's the town's policy in terms of covering spouses and
The town pays half, right, of the insurance.
for any spouses, any
Right.
children that you want?
Right.
So you have a fluctuating liability.
Yes.
And the reason that they came off of the town policy is because of something Peter and Barack have done, or is it because of
No, my daughter...
personal decisions?
Yeah, personal decisions. My
Oh.
daughter has gone to college. It's actually cheaper for her to be insured
Through the college, yeah.
And my wife picked up insurance elsewhere.
Yes, so if personnel changed,
Right.
Yeah, and so
Yes.
this might come back in a
Yes.
different form in the
Right.
future with a large demand for increase as opposed to...
yeah, I mean, the health insurance especially this year is going to be, because as of October of 2013, we're going to have to make a decision on what we're going to do with health insurance anyways because of the Vermont Health Exchange.
I know, that's a big
So it's
one.
a moving, it's going to be a moving target, so yes. But if
Yeah,
someone
that's-
came on that was a family plan,
Right.
they would be offered that family plan.
And that's why I was asking. I didn't know whether that reflected something that had changed or whether that was...
Right, and Leon turned 65.
So he went on to Connecticut, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
all
yes,
good.
it's a moving target, that
Yeah.
number.
But we're in good shape down there. I mean, I'm so proud of that building. I mean, Scott was our clerk of the works, so he knows it well.
It looks beautiful.
But it's holding up good, Scott, you know, and the grounds in the back, the money that the board spent fundraising and finishing off the back and fencing it and closing it, and the gardens. Rod does a nice job, Rod Meyer.
Rod does do a great job.
We paid him a
It
little bit
always looks
now.
good.
And it's just great. It's really good. It's going to be there for a long time, it's really. And the sidewalk. I also put that in the town report, Chris. I was so glad when that sidewalk got done because for years I watched kids and other folks leave the building and then walk to the co-op and they'd go on the road.
Scrambling
You
around.
know, yeah. and
Did
they'd
you get
be
my email the other day about writing a letter from the library of support
did
for the
not.
grant?
I did.
Oh,
And once it slipped through
For
the
the
cracks,
grant.
I'll look again.
yeah, we're looking for letters of support from organizations in town to put with the grant
Oh, sure.
application.
I'll be happy to do that. So that's been wonderful for the patrons of the library and the kids to just walk down the co-op afterwards, or the Yellow Barn for that matter. It's great. Congratulations.
We did have, I don't remember when that was, that might have been before your time, was before your time, discussion about some of the older kids from the central school being a little disruptive.
The middle school kids.
In the vicinity
Bert came to you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Is that
right.
something that has
It has.
resolved reasonably in your opinion?
Yes, there was a certain dynamic the last couple of years at Putney Central, and last year it kind of reached a peak with the 8th graders, and those particular 8th graders moved on.
Have moved on.
And it's not that they don't still come to the library, the middle schoolers or the
Which of course we want them to
Which we
do.
want them to, we're there
Right.
till, and the parents appreciate it, you're not doing anything wrong, you're just sometimes doing it in the wrong place.
Right.
You know, but it's nothing that we can't handle, and it has, in my opinion. Yeah, that was the worst of it last year. I think this year we're in much better shape.
Good.
Kids are generally more polite, fairly reasonable to deal with, you know?
Good.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Stop by.
The next thing on the agenda is I just wanted to mention the class gift that the landmark students left. Did I forward you guys that email? I don't remember if I did or not, but I received an email from Brent last week that the landmark graduates, the winter graduates, there's a class gift as a long-standing tradition at Landmark for them to leave something when they graduate. And this last graduating class left their pooled contributions totaling $1,000 towards the Putney Landmark College Sidewalk Construction Fund.
Great. Oh, wow.
So they are really wanting to see it happen, and
Definitely thank them.
Yep.
Write them a letter of some
yeah, I'm
kind.
gonna write them a letter of, I mean, they'll maintain it at the college in their.
They will.
Yeah, they'll maintain
Yeah,
$1,000 so that when we are ready for it. But I told Brent I would mention it to you guys and make sure that we did a little publicity on it. I think it was great that they
Absolutely.
recognized
Yeah,
that.
that's nice. So then, would that then go towards our match or not? It would?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good.
Would. So yeah, I will write them I asked him if he, if I wrote something up, that if he would get it out to the students. I'm sure they maintain some type of email list that he can get it out to them, so. Well, we've had some snow, so I think we need to talk about the sidewalk.
You've heard about it?
A little. It hasn't been, I mean, I've had some feedback and a couple emails just stating a concern of the maintenance of the sidewalk. And, Brian and I talked about it, and that was a long storm, that first one. It lasted forever.
Yeah.
So I totally understood where the road crew was coming from, and especially we've got some new people. I mean, they're out there just trying to even learn the road routes.
Right.
So they got to it as soon as they could, and people are generally not, they're not up in arms about it, but it's just a general concern of, okay, we've had a couple of snowstorms, what is the plan? So I did talk to Brian about it the other day, and one of the thoughts that came to me was hiring somebody that's on call to do that kind of, is there somebody out there that doesn't have, I know of somebody, and that's what kind of brought it to my, to my mind of somebody that you could say, okay, there's a snowstorm coming, as soon as we get X amount of inches, I'm calling you, come down and do it, and keep it cleaned up, because
Using our equipment?
using our equipment.
Yeah.
He's not opposed to that, he's concerned about
He being
Brian.
Yeah.
He's not sure we find somebody, but we may not, we may. I mean, like I said, I had somebody in mind. He did mention if you wanted to do that. Well, he didn't want to take the plowing and the, he wanted to make sure that we at least talk to you about, so that's something that you would have to let us know. But then he also, And then he also came to me today and said that over the last few days, he's talked to a couple of people, and that was a question you had, was about contracting it out. And he talked to a couple of people that actually were interested. They threw out a number of like $12,000 or $15,000 for the winter. Yeah.
Which, yeah, no, I'm not surprised either. And
No,
that
I'm
would
not
probably
either.
be based on an average winter and,
Right,
you know, if we got
It's
slammed.
probably a plus, cost plus
yeah.
Exactly.
situation.
So I think in a storm like we had, it is reasonable for people to think that it's going to be cleaned off more than once. And in this storm that we had, it was, you know, it
Sure,
was,
when it extends over
yeah.
a 36-hour period of time.
Yeah.
Holiday,
I mean, I would think the other possibility is for, you know, do we need a full additional person if we get, you know, a 6-inch storm that happens in 8 hours?
Right.
Or do we just need somebody in unusual circumstances?
Right, and that's kind of why I was thinking of this on-call,
Type of
whether,
situation.
yeah, using our equipment and, you know,
But
it's not going to be.
there's always going to be a cost associated with
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
higher than what you would average out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm up for any idea. I really think that the expectation obviously is higher now, and I would be the same way. I mean, I feel that it's.
Where does that rig reside? Is that down at the fire station?
Well, that was a
It is?
question Laura and I had. How do they, I didn't.
They drive it up.
They do?
River
Okay.
Road, yeah.
Yeah, we weren't sure.
Well, I don't know, but one of the storms, there was a path across the bridge down at the bottom of Highway City. So I'm not sure if they're shortcutting it across there now.
How about, do we have room out? I don't know whether that, I don't know how long it takes. I mean, it's got to take 20 minutes, half an hour just to drive that rig over here, I would think.
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean,
And then it's taking,
we've got that
this last time it took
shut
about 2-3 hours to, I mean, this last storm, not the one that lasted all day, it was a mess. It took about 3 hours, even though it wasn't as much snow, it was a different mess. But, you know, it took him about 3 hours to do it. So, I mean, Brian's idea was, well, if we had somebody that was on call and they, you know, they get in the plow truck, do that's where you came in. And then, go down and do the sidewalk, and then, okay, when you're done, that way you're not calling somebody 4 times a day to come down and,
Right.
you know, and do it. So, I don't know. Do we want to wait and see what you're thinking about it?
I don't know, it was kind of funny because it would have worked out if I would have done that because, you know, I only plowed for like 4.5 hours the first storm.
Yeah.
And then
Because it was kind of a wait and see
Right.
type of thing because it just kept coming
Right.
and coming. So.
Okay, well, I'll have Brian talk to you.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't mind being pseudo on call for that too. I mean,
I know my husband said, I'll go down and run it. That sounds like fun. I'm like, yeah, the first storm. Then it's not fun
yeah,
anymore.
exactly. By March 15th, it's like,
It's like,
yeah.
All right, so I'll talk to him about, he can get in touch with Brad can get in touch with you. I just think that, especially in a storm, like you say, if you know it's going to be, you know, they're predicting 3 inches and it's going to be a fast-moving storm, that's different.
Right.
You know,
Then
but
you probably don't need somebody.
Then, you know, they can wait until
Yeah.
you're done with everything and then,
So we should have gone for that radiant heating slab.
yes,
Anyway, right.
you do that on the roads too, that would be perfect. I love the snow, but boy, I hate driving in it.
I wonder, I mean, I don't know whether you guys talked about this at all. Is there any sense that a different machine would make a significant difference? Or, because that machine actually works reasonably well.
I think it
when it's
works
working,
reasonably,
doesn't it?
yeah, I think it's just the fear of it breaking.
Right.
Yeah, I think it works. Brian hasn't complained about the actual use of it
Maintenance
or,
issues with it. The
Right.
parts are hard to get.
But we're not likely to cut our time in half with a new machine, is that right?
Well, no, I don't. What the problem is, I think you need something that narrow
To do what you
on
have
this
to.
section.
Right.
Because you've
But
got
you have to make 2
Two
passes
passes
on
over here.
the new
Yeah.
section now. But one of the problems they were having is they kept falling off the old sidewalk.
Right.
I mean, because it was so bad.
But-
Yeah, neither of them said anything to me about having to use it, and they said it's fine. I don't think they're having a problem actually with that.
Yeah.
Or that it's slowing them down any.
It's, it doesn't go away. It's the same problem.
Yeah.
The state plows the,
Right.
plows
It's
the
just a
road. and
continual-
everything
yeah.
on there. It's a constant maintenance issue. It's one cleaning, unlike, a back road,
Yeah.
gets done in one cleaning and one pass with sand.
Yeah.
It takes 3 passes to do the sidewalk, and then if it snows, again in the next 24 hours.
Right.
Well,
And it
gonna
appeared
be
to
a-
me that
there shouldn't be any surprise here.
No.
that extra bit of space that we ended up with most of the way along there makes it probably quite a bit
Just the
easier.
fact
I would
that it's
think.
level, and that it cleans
That you-
better
right,
now
right.
than it ever did before.
And I think just even having an extra foot, like down by Jonathan Flackis's and the medical office, there's more room there for what you're getting rid of, so.
I haven't paid attention, I know we were having an issue down here with blowing snow.
Right.
I'm not sure what that.
I think there's a little more space there, but that, of course, first storm, that 1 foot.
Right, that's easy, it's when you get into the
Yeah.
10 to 12. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really becomes an issue.
Okay, well, I will have him ask our on-call guy.
That was my original intent with
Yeah.
the contracting out, is because I know that they're so stretched out over there,
Yeah,
and you get it done 7,
Right.
8, 10, 12 hours, you don't really want to go down and do the sidewalk.
well, yeah, and yeah, I.
But that's where I was going with that, because it would relieve a huge burden
Right,
Yeah.
if we get out of this sidewalk business.
yeah,
Yeah,
But it will cost some money.
yeah.
and still not a bad thought. That may be what eventually, especially if you get more, the sidewalk, you may end
Yeah.
up.
Although
But
I
then
do
again,
think,
a
I
sixth
think
person
that, I
might be,
think,
a sixth person full-time might be the answer if that's the person that, because, I shoveled the first 2 storms and then my back kind of hurt and I called Brian, I said, look, I'd like to be outside and do that, but you gotta come down and do this, I can't
Yeah.
do it. So he
no,
came down,
I-
which that's, that's the last thing after 14
I
hours.
thought that was Laura's job.
I think I get here earlier.
well, you can
I trudged through
change that.
my snowshoes, I'll put those on and trudge through, that would be awful. I walk through it and then she gets in and we say, hey,
Can you get out there?
can you get out of there? I'm a little older than you,
Or you just wait in your car until she gets there.
So,
But the idea of an on-call person using our equipment might be economically,
Yes.
if we could find that person, that might make the most sense, because if we already own the equipment, if we contract it out to the tune of 15 grand a year, which is.
That's a minimum. Probably.
Right, exactly, and when we had that, we're probably looking at more like 20, 25.
Yeah.
Where you pay for that piece of equipment.
we
pretty
could
darn
hire a
quickly.
full-time guy to be
The sidewalk person.
Yeah, and then during the summer, do lawns and do, there's all this other stuff that that
Yeah.
person could do.
Well, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
all right, well, it has not been, people have not been, they're not like screaming.
Angry about it.
No, they're not angry.
Give them time.
It's just
Yeah,
more,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I don't,
It'll become a perennial burden.
I'm a citizen of a
And we
town,
will-
oh, I get it.
We will
I
not
mean,
make everyone happy. We will
Well,
do
we
our
also-
very best to do so, but.
We've had snow and not an ice storm.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where we're changing.
Yeah. So, okay, well, I will talk to Brian about it. I have a couple things that came up in my pea brain today to bring up that I forgot about. I did call the Vermont League of Cities and Towns about the borrowing expiration. Remember we had that question last time? And he said that there's no case law or there's nothing in the statutes that says if you have an authorization at a town meeting that it expires. He said, but if you ask for borrowing at town meeting in 2012, the intention is obviously to spend it,
Right.
and borrow in the following fiscal year. He said, so if you're asking for a 5-year borrowing, that might mean that the commitment is for 5 years in 2012. He said that might mean you should shave a year off of that borrowing if you don't borrow for the,
In that time.
you know, there's nothing legally saying that that's,
That we're not bound to use
Right.
spend it within the fiscal
you know,
year.
and
But we
the,
should make our intentions clear, right?
yeah, and if there's a question in your mind, then you should go back to the voters, he said. So, I mean, I explained to him the situation with what we were talking
And
about.
it was a 5-year borrowing, is that what it was?
It was up to 5 years,
Yeah.
yeah, 100,000 up to 5
Okay.
years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing on a number like that, it's probably not going to be a huge issue. I
No,
just
I
want
don't
to
think
make
so
sure we
either,
weren't.
yeah. Well, we weren't doing anything,
Some
he
sort
said he couldn't find any, even case law, anything about it. So I did ask about that. Wyndham Solid Waste sent their budget information with their new assessments this year. It's that yellow piece over there. I didn't make a copy for everybody, but they're having a public meeting tomorrow night. And I don't really know much about what they're doing, so I emailed Dan Toomey and, the other person's name, Jess Richardson. Yeah, because there are Wyndham Solid Waste representatives. Both of them were aware of their budgeting. Their budget has gone up. So Dan went to the meeting. He's been following it. He doesn't have anything that he wants to say at the public meeting on behalf of Putney. I didn't know if there was anything that you guys wanted me to say. I'm not going to go if we don't have anything to.
What's our increase look like? I mean, is it surprising or not too
No,
bad?
it's not too bad. And basically, the commodity prices dropped, so they're recycling. It's the same thing that happened a couple years ago, I think, where the recycling prices went
Sure.
down, so their revenue was down. You know, and he did state to me in his email that, you know, sometimes it goes the other way. The commodity prices go up, so they drop the assessment. So he didn't have any, I mean, Dan and Jess seem to be following what's going on at Wyndham Solid Waste pretty closely, and they didn't feel like there was anything we needed to say at the public meeting. So I don't know. Can you hear?
I don't see it go by. I don't know. I think he might not realize that
There's a guy standing there. I think he's waiting for me, maybe. I may have made copies for that for you guys thought, so I'm really quite we had a couple of Aflac representatives come today. We currently don't have Aflac, we used to, I guess.
remind me of that.
The short-term disability, they have all sorts of insurance options for employees. It's not a employer-paid plan. So we told them that they could come back and present to the employees and see if there was any interest. So I just wanted to bring it up tonight and make sure that you guys didn't have any like big red flags about Aflac and whether we should get involved with them. I kind of felt that if it's not going to cost the town anything, and if the employees could get a benefit that they would pay for.
Yeah.
Okay. I can move on to financial report. I didn't do a regular financial report, but I did do a report of how we ended up with the sidewalk grant. We just finished it up. We just got the final reimbursement this month. So the total budget was $446,250. We actually spent $430,240, so we came under budget $16,000. The town's match ended up being a total of $86,000, and you can see on here there was 4 different, the general fund, some of that was, you know, administrative costs. The borrowing of $60,000, the capital fund, I'm going to have to transfer $13,000 over from capital to cover some of the costs, and then the Edwald paid for $3,000 of it. So the total TE grant that we received was $344.
Out of a possible 360, is that right? Is that what that was?
Yeah, it was 3, yeah.
Oh, it was 330 plus contingency
Yeah, there
or
was a
something like
contingency
that.
there, yeah. So that's all finalized, everything's done. Under budget is always good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good.
There's the warrants.
Kathleen asked me about that, the unpaid thing to her. Did we
Yeah.
ever figure out whether that's supposed to be us or the town, or did you ever pay it?
I didn't do anything with it. I told her she needed to talk to you.
What do we want to do about that? How much is it? Do you remember? Do you have it?
I gave it back to her 60 something maybe, $60. So I don't remember. I don't want people to think it was 60,000 or something. I can't remember. 80, I don't know. It wasn't 100.
So you don't have it?
No, I gave it back to her because I gave it back to her.
Do we?
Do you even know what it
Talk
is?
about that after that.
Yeah, actually, I don't know what it is.
Oh, it was for some wine and chocolate or something for Chris when he left, and
Retirement gifts.
Okay.
yeah, so we probably, I don't know whether it was supposed to be a town thing or us, but
Well, if the town's gonna pay for it, we need more receipts than what we have. It's gonna be my position, because it's just on a handwritten piece of paper.
right. I honestly haven't.
But you guys sign it and say, okay.
Right. I mean, I'm happy to put 25.
So, where's the signing part giving you a in this bundle? No, it wasn't at the top.
I don't know. It's on her chair. Does she usually, is that where you get it?
Before I get, I'm fairly far along in the pile there.
Did she
Maybe
run
she
the,
didn't do it. I saw it on her chair, so I just grabbed it.
it's probably where I left it.
Oh, that's where you left it.
That's where I left
Oh,
Yeah,
it. So
but that's the only one?
there's
as far as
probably
you
a
know.
payroll one. I don't think she's run the checks on that.
I haven't seen that one. No, I guess it's not done. We'll have to do it next time. The only other thing I have, and this doesn't require a vote because the vote was taken in November, but it's just remember we had the discussion about the HRA and increasing the deductible? They just need you guys to sign here. You already took a vote in November, it's in the minutes, but they need signatures for it. And I don't have anything under old business other than to just update you guys on the sidewalk grant. We're working with Landmarks, working on the grant with
When's it due?
myself. It's due the 19th, I think. But we have a meeting next week where we've set a goal of getting the draft done next week. So we're all gonna get together next week with everything.
To read it
Yeah.
over. And does that involve the sidewalk committee, or that's just you guys doing that? That's just administrative?
Yeah, I mean, if I.
There's no decision making or anything for it, it's just making sure it does everything it needs, it's
And I don't have anything for executive session because I didn't get an answer back from the attorney yet about anything, so,
nice article the other day.
yeah. Well, it's good. That's fine. So I'm done unless you guys have something.
Thanks,
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Sometime next week?
Next week? What do we got next week?